An al-Qaeda affiliate claims responsibility for attacks on 3 Ivory Coast hotels. Poachers and rebels threaten forest elephants in the Central African Republic. And the Cape Epic mountain bike race gets underway. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin in West Africa, where Al-Qaeda's North Africa affiliates has claimed responsibility for an attack by 6 heavily armed assailants on an Ivory Coast resort that killed 15 civilians and 3 soldiers on Sunday. 33 people were wounded. A site intelligence group which monitors jihadist websites and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb claimed the attack, calling 3 of the attackers heroes for the assault on 3 hotels in the beach resort of Grand Bassam. Witnesses said the assailants wore hooded face masks and arrived on foot on the beach at one of the hotels, the Southern Star. The hotel was full of foreign expatriates during a heat wave in the city of about 80,000 people. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara confirmed the death toll and said all the attackers were also killed.
I would like to say to all our fellow citizens and to all the people that the situation is under control, calm has been restored, and we are continuing to reinforce security in Abidjan and across the entire nation.
Well, the United States condemned the heinous attack and praised Ivorian and French forces for preventing more people from dying. Grand Bassam is a former French colonial capital about 40 kilometers east of the commercial hub of Abidjan and is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of the elegant colonial-era facades of buildings in the city. In recent months, Islamic jihadists have attacked luxury hotels in the capitals of neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, killing dozens of people. Now, for more on the Ivorian Coast attacks, Emily Eob joins us live via Skype from Abidjan. Emily, first, today, we know that you did actually attend a press conference earlier. What was said at this press conference?
The Interior Minister said that they were going to increase the security. It had already been increased after the attack in Mali and in Burkina Faso, but they were saying today that they are going to increase it even more, especially in sensitive buildings such as school and hotels. They also said they are going to implement a 3 days national mourning. And yes, that's what they said. And that they're still identifying, the victims and the terrorists.
Yes. Now, had there been any specific threat to this particular area, the Grand Bassam?
Not really. Ivory Coast, in its whole, was fear. There were some fears that Ivory Coast will be the next target. Because, they struck in Mali and in Burkina Faso, but not in Grand Bassam. People were expecting it. It had to happen to be in Abidjan, the economical capital city. Some argue that Bassam was targeted because maybe Abidjan there's a lot of security around hotels, and that it was more difficult to hit it than Grand Bassam, which is just 40 kilometers away with maybe not the same security level.
Now, are people in Abidjan concerned that there could be an attack in the capital?
Yes, they are. The one I spoke to this morning as I was reading their newspaper, and some of them were just learning about it. They all told me they are scared that now it's Ivory Coast's turn to be hit, and that the terrorists could also that they are scared that jihadists are now in the country and that they may just hit anywhere.
There is an expected address by the president tonight. What is he expected to tell the nation?
We don't know yet. He might release some of the victims' identity, although that really is not something for sure at all. He might just speak to the people to just reassure them and tell them that the security forces are doing the best they can to prevent another attack.
Emily, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thank you.
That is Emily Eob reporting for VOA from Abidjan, Ivory Coast via Skype. Now, the UN Security Council is backing the Secretary General's call to repatriate peacekeepers who sexually abuse or exploit the people they are sent to protect. The Council adopted a U.S. draft resolution on the issue Friday.
The resolution underscores that peacekeepers found guilty, not those accused, those found guilty of committing SEA, do not deserve to serve in UN peacekeeping missions, sending a clear message to troop and police contributing countries who fail to take action to prevent or punish credible allegations of sexual abuse and exploitation, as well as to all member states and to UN bodies to ensure that these investigations are carried out thoroughly, promptly, and impartially.
In 2015, there were 69 allegations of sexual abuse or exploitation made against UN peacekeepers. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon warned that the allegations tarnish the credibility of peacekeeping operations and the United Nations as a whole. Now, to an issue we reported last week, a UN report revealed South Sudan's government operated a scorched earth policy of deliberate rape, pillage and killing of civilians during the civil war in 2015. For more on the report, VOA United Nations correspondent Margaret Bashir joins us live from New York. Margaret, first, what a report that was. I mean, have you read ever any report like that?
I have to tell you, Vincent, it was one of the most grim reports that I have read in 8 years at the United Nations. There were 1,300 reported rapes, many of them gang rapes, in a 5-month period just in Unity State. And, you know, that's reported. So there are many more that went unreported. And the things that went on in this report, people suffocated in shipping containers, cut up, hung from trees, shot, raped in front of their husbands or their children, daughters raped in front of their parents. I mean, it was just absolutely heartbreaking crimes that were committed in this period of 5 months in Unity State. And I think it's relevant that Unity State is the home state of Riek Machar, and the rapes that were committed, the report says, were committed by government troops.
So now, what is being recommended in order to hold people account for these heinous crimes?
Well, the African Union, in their Commission of Inquiry report last year, called for a hybrid tribunal to be set up for South Sudan, and the UN is saying that that really needs to be accelerated and it needs to be done. And if it doesn't happen, Ivan Simonovic, who's the Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights here in New York, he said on Friday that they should keep as a backup plan the possibility of the Security Council referring South Sudan to the International Criminal Court. But I think everyone sees a preferred method being a hybrid court for South Sudan.
And to be very clear, these crimes have been committed by both sides of the conflict, right?
Well, they have been committed by both sides in the conflict, but this report in particular focuses on government troops, and it says SPLA soldiers were often allowed to rape women in lieu of wages. Since they weren't getting paid, they were told they could rape women. So it really does focus on the government. But in the past, both sides have been accused of crimes, no doubt. But these are possibly new war crimes and crimes against humanity that are being committed in South Sudan.
Being referred to The Hague, a little tricky here, knowing that there's going to be a government of national unity that brings both sides together, right?
Well, it is difficult, and there's been all this talk of a government, but it hasn't happened yet. And so the UN has really, of course, been pressuring both sides all along to implement the peace agreement that they've been waiting since August for them to implement, and that hasn't happened. And one of the things that have been talked about is the possibility of an arms embargo against South Sudan. That's been discussed in the Security Council on several occasions. It hasn't really gone anywhere. I asked Mr. Simonovic on Friday if he thought it was time for an arms embargo against South Sudan, and he said that it could help, but that he saw it really as more a symbolic move than a practical one, because weapons are getting into the country from through so many different channels. So it would be practically a hard thing to stem. But I think some council members feel even if it is only a symbolic measure, the council needs to send the message.
Margaret, thank you very much. Well, VOA United Nations correspondent Margaret Bashir reporting live from the UN. Now, Turkish officials expect to announce Monday the conclusions of their investigation into a bombing Sunday in the country's capital, Ankara, that killed at least 37 people and drew condemnation from across the world. The blast happened near Kazilay Square, a key shopping and transportation hub near foreign embassies and government buildings. Authorities say it was a car bomb that targeted civilians at a bus stop and that 125 people were wounded. Ankara has been hit by several bombings in recent months, including a car bomb attack in February that killed at least 29 people. The government blamed the attack on a Syrian man with links to Kurdish militia groups. Turkey has been battling the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which has waged a 30-year guerrilla war for more Kurdish autonomy in southeastern Turkey. Turkey also has been targeted by Islamic State, which was blamed for last October's suicide bombing at a peace rally in Ankara that killed more than 100 people, the bloodiest since terrorist attacks in Turkey became a modern state in 1923. Now, Saudi's attack came 2 days after the U.S. Embassy issued a security warning about a potential plot in central Ankara. The United States quickly condemned the attack and reaffirmed its strong partnership with NATO ally Turkey in combating the shared threat of terrorism. Well, turning to U.S. politics, presidential candidates are looking ahead to Tuesday when 5 states hold primary elections, with Republican frontrunner Donald Trump being blamed for violence that has erupted at his rallies. There have been fights and pushing and shoving between his supporters and protesters opposing his candidacy at several Trump rallies. But Trump denies his campaign has provoked violence.
We have 25,000 people and 20,000. 2 weeks ago in Alabama, we had 35,000 people. And people stand up. And do you ever notice? I guess I'm getting soft. But I'll tell the police. Do we love our police, by the way? They're so good. And we don't get them out. The police take care of things. But I'll say to the police, nice and easy. Don't hurt the person. But then every once in a while, you get a person that's sort of violent, likes to hit people, likes to swing, likes to do things. So you be a little bit tougher, and they'll say, this morning, why did you treat that person so badly? Well, the person was violent.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz on Sunday added fresh criticism of Trump.
Well, listen, I don't know if it's his strategy or not. I do know that his approach to every issue is simply to use angry rhetoric. Often to engage in insults, often to curse and yell. And that's not a productive solution. Listen, we're all frustrated. We're angry. I understand the people that are voting for Donald Trump, that they're angry with Washington. They're angry with politicians who've lied to us. I'm angry, too. But Donald has been enmeshed in that Washington corruption for 40 years.
Thank you so much, Tampa.
On the Democratic Party side, Hillary Clinton accused Trump of trafficking in hate and fear. Her opponent, Bernie Sanders, said he hopes Trump tones down his campaign and tells supporters violence is not acceptable. Trump blamed Sanders for the increasingly frequent disruptions at events and threatened to retaliate by sending his supporters to Sanders rallies. The primaries in Florida, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, and North Carolina are particularly important for Trump's opponents who want to prevent him from grabbing a potentially insurmountable lead. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Well, coming up, conservationists fight to protect the Central African Republic's forest elephants. Stay with us.
There was action outside the debate hall.
Political season is about to change, too.
VOA News, Las Vegas.
Well, after years of violence and political unrest, the Central African Republic has just one national park still open, located in a remote area rich in gold and diamonds, as well as illegal ivory. Viewers Tatiana Mossant visited one of the world's last sanctuaries for forest elephants and went on patrol with park rangers working to protect them.
Rangers at the Tsanga Reserve set fire to nearly 300 weapons and more than 36,000 traps taken from poachers who are threatening this UNESCO World Heritage Site near the Central African Republic's borders with Cameroon and Congo. Albert Christian Junior Ndade says the poachers are well organized.
What makes this more difficult is that we are where three countries share a border. If there is a poacher in Cameroon who takes a protected item from Central African territory, it becomes difficult to pursue him legally.
Fewer than 60 rangers work to protect endangered forest elephants across an area of more than 1,200 square kilometers of parkland. The World Wildlife Fund estimates that nearly two-thirds of this species has already disappeared from the country, with only 150 or so forest elephants thought to remain within the park. Ranger Pascal Dombino says the poachers are adept at hunting the animals.
The poachers look for the place where the elephants gather to take them down. There is a real danger when the females are with calves. You have to be really careful because she might charge you.
Farther along the trail, we see what he means. A female forest elephant, with her ear found out, presents a threatening posture to the patrol as she protects her young.
When she sees us here and she has her calf, she now seeks to attack us. We need to avoid that. We can change our route to go around the elephant's position and continue our patrol.
Patrols for park rangers here usually last more than 1 week. But with limited training and few radios, technical advisor Guillaume Dubosc says it's an uphill fight against an illegal ivory network supplied by local pygmy poachers.
Because of their knowledge of the forest, the pygmy people are the best hunters. They can shoot forest elephants as close as 30 meters. Ivory sells here for $50 per kilo, but more than $250 after it reaches Cameroon and $2,000 in China.
It is not just poachers who threaten forest elephants in the Central African Republic. Anti-government rebels killed 26 elephants in the park during violence in 2014. Researchers here said that unless the killing is stopped, all the forest elephants in this area will disappear within a decade. Tatiana Mosso, VOA News, Tsanga, Central African Republic.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. The continent's toughest mountain bike race kicks off in South Africa. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Ivory Coast, Al-Qaeda affiliate claims responsibility for an attack that left 22 people dead at the Grand Bassam's beaches. In Morocco, tens of thousands marched through the capital Rabat to protest against UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's stance on the disputed Western Sahara region. And Tunisian Prime Minister visits the border Ben Gherdain, where terrorists carried out an attack on army barracks last week. Finally, in Senegal, President Macky Sall opens the Dakar Economic Forum with a discussion highlight on African growth. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Good.
back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Think of it as striking back against the machine. South Korean Lee Settle-won her first match against a computer program developed by a Google subsidiary in the ancient board game Go, denying a clean sweep for artificial intelligence in a 5-match series. Lee is one of the world's top players and a holder of 18 international titles. He recovered from 3 consecutive losses against the AlphaGo program developed by DeepMind. DeepMind's founder told reporters the loss was a valuable learning tool and would help identify weaknesses in the program that his team needed to address. Well, next up, imagine being able to travel back in time. Now, that is possible, but only virtually, using a smartphone and a simple Google Cardboard virtual reality headset. The Time Looper app allows tourists to travel back to key moments in a London tourist attractions history from certain designated locations. The smartphone's inbuilt motion detection allows time travelers to move their gaze around the virtual world, seemingly exploring London centuries ago. The videos are location-based, meaning visitors must visit the sites to unlock the virtual reality experiences. VR technology has been exploding in many directions throughout the tourism industry, from cruises to theme parks. Well, and finally, Lahore has just become a little bit more fashionable. The Pakistan Fashion Design Council launched the last day of its annual Fashion Week in Lahore on Saturday, showcasing the spring and summer collections of local designers. This year's show was marked by a wide array of styles. Among the trends this year, South Asian traditional meets modern with a touch of retro. Among the offerings, lace dresses, sport tunics, and psychedelic 1960s inspired prints. While the show is a way for up-and-coming Pakistani designers to meet and network with personalities from the international world of fashion and media to better build their brands. And that is what is trending today. Now, Washington, D.C.'s newest Smithsonian Museum is set to open to the public on September 24th. It will be the first national museum devoted exclusively to African American history and culture. For the last 8 years, a major campaign has been underway to find and collect artifacts, documents, and other items that will make up the museum's permanent collection. VOA's Chris Simpkins has more on the story.
Not far from Washington, the Smithsonian Institution is collecting artifacts that will tell the 400-year story of African Americans. Lonnie Bunch is director of the National Museum of African American History.
We have started with 0 objects. We've now collected nearly 25,000 artifacts from all over the country.
Ground was broken for the museum in 2012. Now workers are putting the final touches on the building that sits on the National Mall. Meanwhile, Michelle Gates Morrissey and other curators have assembled artifacts that reflect periods of African American history.
The unique thing that we can do at the Smithsonian is present them with those real artifacts and make history real.
The museum acquired almost 40 items belonging to Harriet Tubman. In the mid-1800s, she helped hundreds of African American slaves reach freedom in the North through the secret route known as the Underground Railroad. The museum also received a shawl that was given to Tubman.
The shawl that was given to her by Queen Victoria, who had invited her to come to the Queen's Jubilee, which she had declined, but she had given her the shawl as a recognition of who she was and what she had accomplished.
These slave shackles make the horrors of slavery real. Bunch says painful chapters of history must be told.
We hope that we will tell a story that on the one hand will make you angry about what happened to people, but on the other hand, it'll inspire you about the ability of America to perfect itself, to right a wrong.
African Americans in film and music will also be a permanent exhibit.
I need you so.
Curator Dawn Reese located items of the late singer and actress Lena Horne.
I'd love to have this for the collection.
Yes. She was the first black performer to sign with a major Hollywood studio. Reese says the arts have been a path out of oppression for many African Americans.
Particularly in the arts and entertainment and sports, it's been that agency to kind of get out of poverty or circumstances and make your way in the world.
This isn't a single African American story, but it's a story that that touches us all and that allows people, regardless of race, to see that they too are shaped by the African American experience.
Soon this museum will give visitors more moments to discover the riches of African American history. Chris Simpkins, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's been an exciting week in sports. For all of the highlights, we turn to Sonny Young with the sunny side of sports. Hello, Sonny.
Hello, Vincent, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Let's kick off in Cairo, where a group of American players from the National Football League recently conducted a 5-day training camp for Egyptian fans of the sport. The training sessions were organized by American Football Without Barriers, a nonprofit organization that has a goal of spreading football to different corners of the world. In Cairo, the players scrimmaged and taught the Egyptians basic skills like passing, receiving, and tackling. The American players also scouted for talented Egyptians who could possibly be given college scholarships to play football here in the United States. One of the 10 professional NFL players who took part in the Cairo camp was D'Angelo Williams, a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He praised the dedication and physicality of the Egyptian players and said they need only some development.
They have everything to take. They're huge. These guys are ginormous here, you know, and they have the talent level to play anywhere. It's just the fine-tuning the technique and making sure that they're healthy enough or fit enough to play it.
D'Angelo Williams, Steelers running back, speaking in Cairo. From Cairo, let's go to South Africa's scenic city of Cape Town for an annual international mountain bike race. The 13th Cape Epic mountain bike race began Sunday with an opening prologue. About 1,200 riders started out in the 8-day competition. They'll certainly be challenged this week as they cover more than 650 kilometers of off-road riding, including about 15,000 meters of climbing. I'm VOA's Sonny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports. Vincent?
Thank you, and that's our show for today. Have a good night. U.S. presidential race enters a crucial phase as Republican frontrunner Donald Trump edges closer to securing the party's nomination, and time is running out for his rivals.
The Bring Back Our Girls movement, some 2 years and counting now, as the battle to rescue the Chibok girls still drags on.
And there is growing concern over the poor sales of homemade goods in Nigeria, but manufacturers say that is just one of the many challenges. Africa 54 starts right now. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori of The Voice of America, coming to you from our global headquarters in Washington.
And I'm Adeshawa Joshua, Channels Television here in Lagos. Stay with us.